Good afternoon. We're here for another chat today, April 11th. It's a Sunday afternoon. Looking at about 75 degrees outside. It was nice and temperate when we went out to do our morning shopping run and had ourselves a good little morning. So let's see who else in the chat this morning. We've got Luna. Hey, Luna. And we've got Robert William Griffiths. Good morning. And it's got me like a million times, but that's okay. We are going to try to keep the durations of these shorter. The last one got, it was fun. There was engagement all the way through, but it was a marathon, so we're going to shorten them up a little bit from there. So today on deck, I've got the Q1 numbers and trusting the Tesla trip planner, boring tunnel in the news, the removal of radar from autopilot and full self-driving. I didn't bring my prop. I want to talk about test box for a minute, and three-wheelers. And there'll be more as you guys prompt me to do stuff, so we'll see how that goes. And if anybody stops through the neighborhood, they'll jump up on screen with me, and it'll be a blast. So pop in the chat. How was everybody's weekend going so far? Are you ready to go back, or you need another day? What's the deal? Let me pull up the Q1 numbers so I can actually discuss them. Let's see. So what's amusing about the Q1 numbers for me this year is that they had exactly 2020 Model S and Model X delivered. I don't know if you could call them produced because the factory was shut down the whole quarter. So, well, the factory line was shut down the whole quarter. And so they had a record delivery of 184,800 cars. So that's a 7% of them were leased, and they produced 180,338. So that was a very awesome first quarter. So for the folks who were curious if they could hit a million vehicles this year, it looks like they're well on the way to doing that. And I'm curious to see what the new S and X line can do, because some of the things they would have done when they revamped the line to go to the refresh would be to make it easier to build. So if it's easier to build, you should be able to build them faster, which should mean you build more of them. But that's kind of more of a discussion topic, so if you guys want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. If not, I will go on to the next thing. Well, before I do that, let's share the screen here. Share a window. This one. So this is coming from Tesla.com. And then here are our figures. And then their income and cash flow results will be announced on their Q1 conference call, which I believe is next week. I'll look that up in a moment. Okay, so let's see. Their Q1 call is on the 26th of April, and that is usually a Wednesday for them, because it's usually right before and during our Tesla Life show. And let's see. No, it's a Monday this month, so that'll be fun. So we can actually watch the whole thing without rushing in to get on the Tesla Life podcast. So that will be fun to see as well, because I'm curious what little nuggets they let on to as they do that. So another nugget that popped up, I know we discussed it briefly, was the lack of door handles on the Model Cybertruck. So some other things that came up in Tesla news were that for full self-driving, Elon has stated on Twitter that he wants to remove the radar from the car entirely, and that in the next version of the full self-driving package, so FSD beta version 9, they're going to remove the radar from the equation. They're not going to go physically take it out of our cars, but depending on how that goes, then they'll be able to go ahead and not put it in the new cars, which would be a savings of a couple $100 per car, plus whatever labor is involved in getting that in there. Let me see if I can pull up the tweets real quick. Alright, let's see where he's at. Oh, that was fun. He was talking about catching the super heavy booster with mecha arms on the launch tower. That will be interesting to see how that plays out. Oh, that was cool too. The monkey that plays video games with the Neuralink. That's going to be something interesting. I'm curious to see how it goes. Huh, hang on. I'm seeing Omar in private chat, but I'm not seeing him on the stream. I wonder if I have him in another room than the one that's on. Stand by. Okay, interesting. So yeah. So he's ready to chat. So let's give him a second to get in, and I'll see if I can't find that tweet real quick, or at least I'll show you this one of the monkey. Let's see here. Share my screen. We'll share this. No, not that window. That's a useless window. We'll share that window. And there we go. I'll make that bigger for you guys. Okay. Yeah, so this one here, I thought was pretty cool. Let's see if we can't watch it. That's a photo. Oh, there we go. I had muted myself for the video.
Oh,
Good morning, Omar.
morning.
Yes. So I was talking about the
Or
radar.
should I say good afternoon?
Good afternoon. I was talking about the removal of radar for autopilot and full self-drive.
So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, you're going to get rid of radar.
Right.
It's amazing what they're doing with AI and with, just using. I understand the concept. Elon's trying to drive the way humans drive. We
Yes.
use our eyes. We don't have
Yep.
radar built into ourselves. And the whole thing about it, I mean, the car has to be better than a human before it's going to be accepted by humans. And I'm not sure how I feel about getting rid of radar as like a backup system to kind of assist with the cameras. So we're gonna see how that plays out.
If it does what he says it's doing, I'll be mostly comfortable with it. What scares me is the loss of, right now we've got the ability to be able to detect several cars in front of us and stop if something happens to the car in front of the car in front of us. And Elon pointed out that yes, the B-pillar cameras can see forward, but everybody pointed out to him that it's like a fish or a goat or a cow, something that's got the eyes on the side of its head. It doesn't look straight forward. And so the three cameras that can see forward, say you're behind a truck and it's in stop and go, so it gets a little close, and then you guys start to speed up. Then the car speeds up, and then the truck stops suddenly because it's hit something. So now you're going to react to the truck, but with the radar, you would have known that the truck was going to collide ahead of time because you could see through the truck, essentially, by bouncing the radar underneath the front of the truck.
Right, and that's what I mean by it being better than a human,
Yeah.
because now you're relying on it reacting basically the same way a human would react, in the sense that if I'm sitting there in traffic, maybe I can't see through the truck either,
Right.
but I'm going to react to what the truck is doing in front of me, and
Right.
now it's going to do the same thing that I would do.
Right. Which would be just as safe as this what we do, except the only thing that's got on us is reaction time. But it'd be better if it knew to stop ahead of time. Superhuman is what we used to have, and so it'd be nice for it to not be human
I actually
lagging.
see two advantages.
Yeah.
You're right about reaction time. The other advantage is it will never get distracted. It's
It's
always going
true.
to be paying attention and doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah, I like that part. I've been watching a couple of crash compilation channels, and it's the amount of mistakes that people make to cause crashes. They're not accidents; they're crashes. And in these crashes, you got people playing on their phone, people who are looking right at a situation, and they just mindlessly go and cause a crash. And it's like, how did you do this? There was one I saw recently. It was a big rig. Uh, he came up and passed one of the stop ahead warnings, and it came to an intersection, and he went straight through the stop sign because apparently he's not the only one. There's the reason they have that stop ahead warning is because the stop sign could be missed, and so I think he was one of about 20 that year that ran through that stop sign. But he killed a lady and orphaned some children because
Mm.
the big rigs don't stop all that well, and she didn't see anything, and he comes over the hill and goes straight through, and it was a mess.
Yeah, and those big rigs are, you know, they're carrying a lot of weight. So that's
Yes,
a lot of mass, and they usually go through whatever they hit.
they do. He had enough room to stop had he been able to see the warning sign, and then he would have been looking and seen the stop sign. But I don't know if he glanced away or if he blinked one too many times or what. But you could see it on his camera that there was a stop sign or the stop sign warning. You could see the stop sign too, but the stop sign was hard to see even on his camera. And I mean, yeah, our car wouldn't have that problem because it's got 8 cameras, or 5 looking forward anyway. But it would, and it stops better. But I just I'm curious to see how it's all going to play out, and I know it's going to do great, and I know it's going to do at least as good as a human. But I'm just curious, how much is he saving? What, up to $500 a car? And he says it's a very noisy signal, but if it's a secondary warning, and say you get like a lot of fog or sudden rainstorm or snowstorm or something, it'll at least allow the car to slow down and figure out what to do. It's my thinking.
Yeah, but the question is it worth putting in if he doesn't intend on using it at all? So
That
if
would
he's
be a
saying it's a
waste.
very noisy signal and we're just totally ignoring it anyway,
Yeah, be a waste of
then
power.
I mean, it's kind of
Yeah,
pointless to have it there if you're not going to use it.
yeah, waste of power and a waste of money. He needs more money to complete the mission, and we need the power to drive down the road. But um, I hope it's as good as he says it is, and hopefully he keeps putting it in the cars until he verifies that. I mean, I don't mind having it powered down for the duration of this beta. Hopefully, it's only off in the city streets and stays on the highways until they decide yes, this works. Because we saw what happened when Uber turned off sensors on their safety driver and didn't tell them, hey, by the way, we've only got 8 sensors out of the 12. Have a nice day. And she was down there texting on the phone, and she ran over that lady on the bike.
So speaking of which, so like, I saw a review of the Mach-E,
Yeah.
and they have something kind of similar to autopilot, where it's
Yes.
like, advanced lane keeping assist and adaptive cruise control.
Right.
But what was very interesting was that these were Tesla drivers that were comparing the Mach-E basically to
Right.
what Tesla does.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they were talking about was the lack of warning. So, like, if you're, just putting just enough pressure on the wheel, whatever, you're kind of halfway paying attention and you get distracted or whatever, and there's a curve or something, and you're basically keeping the wheel straight and you're going out of the lane,
Mm-hmm.
the car doesn't really give you much warning, apparently, like the Tesla does. Like,
Oh.
if you're in autopilot, if you're in full self-driving or autopilot, either,
Yeah.
and you're doing something that the car is not trying to do, like the car's trying to follow the curve, and you're basically pulling it away from the curve, at a certain point, because you're turning the wheel away from how it's trying to turn the wheel, it will release autopilot. It will give you that warning signal, like ding ding,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it tells you, hey, you're in control now because you
Right.
obviously want to do something else. Well, fine, I give the control to you. And it basically disengages autopilot.
Yes.
Whereas this other system doesn't do that. It gives us, I guess, a slight vibration to the wheel itself, but
Right.
other than that, you get nothing.
Oh.
And then what's really crazy is if you let go of the wheel, it automatically will take back over and start steering you right back in. So you never actually fully disengage, and it doesn't give you a warning. It doesn't tell you, and that to me is scary.
It's scary and cool at the same time. Yeah, I like that it picks back up because just yesterday actually we were coming back from a physically distanced Tesla car show, and we were on this road that was unfamiliar to me, and I saw in the middle of the road a metal object. It was a water main, and you know how sometimes they have the cap, sometimes they don't, and worse, sometimes they are broken with that nice little sharp edge on them. So I was in full self. I was in auto steer on the city street. I wasn't in full self drive because I don't have that yet, and I steered out, and the car said, "Doo doo, you're out. You got this." And then this is something that popped up later in one of the later versions of 2021.4. It gave me the panic warning. It's like, whoop, 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 whoop. You're leaving the lane. Before, it would sometimes buzz, sometimes nudge you back into the lane, but it wasn't taking control. It would just nudge you back because it thinks that you're just drifting. And so I got the red hands, take over, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I know. I just physically took it out. You see
Like, I just did that. Right.
Yeah. and I went around the mains, and I turned it back on. It's perfectly centered itself back up because I was close, but I wasn't directly on center. But at the same time, earlier that day, we were coming on the highway, and somebody had dropped a bag of something. I'd say it looked like a bag of cotton, but it was small. Like a bag of cotton, takes up a good portion of the back of a tractor trailer, and this was not that size. But it interfered with us getting on the highway. And I had already shifted over, like you see me do on some of the tests, where I auto steer into the on-ramp, and then I am still in autopilot, so full self-drive takes over, and or I should say navigate on autopilot takes over. Yeah, that's full self-drive when you're on the highway. You heard the ascending chime saying, "Hey, I really got this. It's not just, I'm not just steering and doing the pedals." And I was about to take over because the car doesn't advertise that it can avoid any obstacles in this, and it steered to the right side onto the fog line for us in the U.S. We drive on the right, obviously. So on the fog line is the white line on the right. It steered right up onto that, avoided the bag of some white substance that looked like cotton, and then when we passed it, it centered itself back in the lane. And then it was one of those the stupid ones we have here where the on-ramp is the off-ramp. So before the on-ramp became the off-ramp, it then shifted lanes over and then got onto the compound on-ramp to get onto the main road. And that was impressive. I mean, I was totally ready to take over, but like whoever either it has learned how I take over, or whoever programmed this particular behavior has made it to the point where it does it at the right time. That as I'm getting ready to, I was applying the pressure, but as I'm getting ready to break out of the auto steer, you could feel in the wheel.
Figured it out.
It was like a smooth motion. It's like, I got this. It's like, all right, you got this. and that was a treat yesterday. I didn't expect to see that, but. As you've seen on some of my videos, I actually have recorded at least 4 different times where the car has avoided an obstacle in the road, or it's just interesting because, like, right now with the version that we're on, it doesn't avoid potholes. It was definitely willing to tear up a tire on a water main, and so it's interesting to see when it doesn't have itself. So I'm curious to see how version 9 will do, because he keeps saying how much better it is than version 8, and everything I'm seeing in version 8 is pretty darn good. Except for when it, takes too long at a 4-way stop, or it tries to turn left into a wall, but, these sort of things. At the moment, it does, Andrews. So if you have the radar blocked, say if you've got a mirror wrap, or your radar freezes over when you're driving in sleet or freezing rain, it gives you a nice little warning sign, and it starts behaving poorly. But I'm guessing that since they're the ones turning it off in this particular case, and the fact that they're using a different vision system than what we've got today, Elon is much more confident in what they've got going on.
I think if I heard correct, I thought I remember reading something about Tesla filing a new patent too, related to, and I think it's related to their new vision package that they're using for their self-driving.
Yeah.
So that tells me that it is definitely going to be fundamentally a completely different way that they're doing it than version 9 on than how they've been previously doing it.
Yeah. My wife is calling me. I'm going to put myself on mute for a second.
So hopefully with the new version 9 coming out and further, hopefully we see some dramatic improvements, and maybe they do want the car to drive just like people do, just vision. Maybe that'll cause less confusion to the system, because maybe it gets confused by the actual what it's seeing in radar compared to what it's seeing visually, since it's getting completely 2 different things.
Yeah, because he's talking about at first he was saying sensor fusion, so he was going to merge the ultrasonics, all 8 cameras, or 9 if you've got the model, the newer cars, the Model Y, Model 3, and the refreshed Model S and X, and Cybertruck, or and the radar. But maybe that fusion, he kept talking about how noisy the radar is. Maybe that, because we see on the current version where it's trying to merge each camera separately and figure out what to do, you can see on the screen all the lines jump, and you see a car beside you just dancing. It's like that car is sitting perfectly still and it's doing this on the screen. I would understand if he was like creeping forward at the light, or if you were moving, or if the had the bass thumping so the camera's shaking, but everything is perfectly still. The radio's off. There's no reason for it to be jumping, and that car is is doing some kind of dance. So if radar adds that element back into it, I can see that being a reason to remove it. Maybe.
And I mean that could have something to do with why the car didn't see, the straight flat white stationary object in front of it, like a big
Both of
semi,
us. Yeah.
you know, and maybe it's because of the noise and all the different inputs that it's getting, and it's trying to decipher what it's looking at and thinks it's an overpass or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe just using vision and focusing more on what it's actually seeing, maybe it gets better. I don't know.
Yeah. I think maybe for the cars that still have it, maybe leave it not necessarily powered up, but have it ready to go should you lose a camera or two. And then I don't know what you do on a case where where the car doesn't have it. Maybe you'll have newer cameras that are even more robust. But I've only had a handful of camera out situations that I've heard of. The Raven Performance loaner car they gave me had the rear camera with the green line, just like my car had. And I've had one B pillar go out, and I've heard of a couple other B pillars go out, but I haven't really heard of too many failures while operating on the rest of the cameras, other than where Sentry Mode was new and it would cause insomnia in the FSD computer. But
See, I wonder how it would do with like really bad weather. You get bad snowstorms, snow and sleet and stuff like that. If it builds up on certain parts, like I don't know, maybe.
I think it would do pretty well there, actually, though, because it's got its own defrost. It's inside the wipers, so as long as your wipers aren't bad, it can clear itself. And
Yeah,
the ones on the sides, every time I go back and review the side ones, they don't have any water on them. I'm curious about the B pillar cameras though, because they're kind of in the path of all the water, but I can't see them without hacking the car, so that'll be interesting. And then the direct rear view camera. Even though they've made it better than it was on my Model S, the rear view camera still gets dirty quickly, and I don't know what they plan to do with that thing unless they are using it as a backup for the two fender cameras. But what's going to be cool though is it's going to make a model of the world like we do, where the car is the center of the world, and as you turn your head, you know that this is left and right of you, and it's going to, we have our two eyes, and we don't have too many problems with the way that they overlap. Like, you never see your nose unless somebody calls it out.
right. you you actually can always see your nose, but you always ignore it.
Right, exactly what I mean. you never process it, but it's there every time. And
Right, it's always there.
yeah. And the way the car is always calibrating its cameras, like it uses like the door handle, the edge of the mirror, the side of the body, and it figures out, because there have been people who've actually had their cameras moved, like if the car gets dented or whatever, and within a mile or two, it's back to running properly, which is incredible. But we'll see how that plays out. What did you think of those Q1 numbers?
Oh, well, for one, it's fantastic, because if you look at it, this is the first time that Tesla has Q1 numbers that beat the Q4 numbers that were previous to it. Because Q1 is always like a bad quarter, and that's really for every car maker. Q1's usually a bad quarter, and the fact that they had higher numbers than they had in Q4,
Yeah,
I mean, that's huge. That
it
just
is.
goes to show they're at that point now on the S curves where they got the exponential growth, and it's going to get ridiculous.
Yeah,
And this is with Giga Berlin and Giga Texas not being open yet.
not even close. Yeah,
So once Giga Berlin starts kicking out cars later this year, and with Giga Texas coming online and kicking out vehicles next year, their numbers are going to be huge.
yeah. I think that we'll see Giga Berlin probably start to get a token amount of cars at the end of the quarter, probably right as it rolls out of June, and then with the Terra Texas, I think he's got an ace up his sleeve. He's got to be sandbagging because that thing is just flying, and I have a feeling that he'll pull a Shanghai and actually start building cars before the building is complete.
That sounds exactly like something they would do.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be Cybertrucks or Model Ys, but it'll probably be Model Ys because they're not making enough of those, and it'll be curious to see how they do with it.
Well, that's going to be interesting because they're starting to build Model Ys in Shanghai. They're going to be building the Model Y in Germany, and I, it's gonna be very interesting to see if they start rolling out the Model Y first out of Texas, or if they start Cybertruck just because they want to have a few deliveries by the end of this year, just to say that they've met that milestone.
Yeah, they've got the training line that they're working on in Fremont for Cybertruck, so I'm curious if they'll come back and say, hey, let's have a party, end of the year, and here's 6 Cybertrucks. Everybody come get your key card and have a nice day. Like they did with Model X.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was technically that year, but it wasn't it wasn't what people had envisioned.
Right. It wasn't mass production.
Right. But mass production wasn't far behind either, because at the
True.
one of that year they had, like 600 a week. It was pretty cool. Thankfully, they didn't go too fast because Model X had some serious teething pains.
Oh yeah, they definitely over-engineered those doors.
Yes, yes, under and over engineered them. Just yesterday, we had an impressive. I think we had like 8 Model X's there, and we tried to make them do a group dance, like an aerobic session. And mine and one of the other black. Mine is the Obsidian Black, and the other one is the free black, but is wrapped. Both of them stopped in the heat. They like, oh, is there something in front of my doors? I can't open them. And
Oh wow.
better safe than sorry. But I mean, you can see with the cameras, there's nothing around. Maybe you could ignore that sensor during the during the dance. Oh. Interesting. Yeah, you guys have a big gap in your supercharger network down there. Let me pull it up real quick. Oh, wait, no, I can't because they changed that to a U.S. only map. But they are still expanding them. It's just you'd think they'd be going a little further in Australia than they are.
They've done something else where they've started prefabbing superchargers, where they have them already basically built and they just need to bring them to location and hook them up.
Yeah, I like
so
that.
That should speed up the rollout.
It should. So basically, they've got everything on concrete blocks on the pallet, rather than like they have very much like they have for the temporary superchargers. You might have seen where they've got like 3 urban superchargers or 2 regular superchargers on a pallet with the equipment. So now with V3, they've got 1 V3 box and all 4 of its supercharger pedestals already prefabbed in the concrete, and they can just hoist them in place, put them on the ground. And that, I think, is going to be incredible, because they build them in Buffalo, and they get them on a truck and just drop them off where they go, and then hook them up to power, get the approval to turn them on. Versus having to do all that trenching and digging. Our friend Purcell has actually seen a couple of them under construction, and it looks like they dig pretty deep. So.
Oh yeah, I saw one under construction near me, and it was definitely involved. I could see why it took so long for it to come online. I mean, from the point when they started construction till they complete it was a while.
Yeah.
And they have to stop at certain mile points along the way to get it inspected, get it approved and all that. Okay, this piece is good. You can move forward to the next piece. And that takes up a lot of time.
Absolutely. I would think it might be better to put them at the bottom of the mountain, because if you put them at the top of the mountain and people come down the hill and their battery is full, then they're on the brakes rather than just putting all that energy in the battery pack.
Not only that, you should charge up before you go up the mountain.
Yes.
So you can make it up to the top. Make sure you got enough juice to get up there.
Yeah. But if it's a really large plateau, like you go up the mountain, then you can go for another couple 100 miles, and maybe put one a little ways past the top of the mountain, just to make
midway or
sure.
something.
Yeah, that way people have enough room in the battery pack that they can come down without burning up the brakes, because these things don't have low gear.
Yeah, but that regen,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is you know once the battery's full, you lose your regen.
right?
That's a fun experience, let me tell you. Whew. I was staying somewhere and it got cold, and then my battery was full too, and it was like being on a icy sled. Or at least that's
Well, I
how it
was in
felt compared to how it
Montreal.
normally was. Yeah.
I was in Montreal, and we went to the top of this mountain. It's like Mount, I forget what it's called, but went to the top of like this mountain in Montreal, and beautiful views. We were looking at everything and stuff. On the way down, we're going down, down, down. We were just using so much regen. When I looked at my power consumption, it actually was negative,
Yes.
which was which is odd to me. I'm just looking at this negative number. I'm like, wow. It actually
You can
took a
go.
while
Yes.
before it went into the positive when us driving around, before we actually used up what we regained.
You can do 1,000 miles of charge. You're like, nobody. No, I can't.
Exactly.
But it is fun to see that, though. It's like, or if you have charged recently before hitting the downslope, and it's more than what you started with, it's really fun to see. So, how about the boring tunnel? You saw the videos of it being in use
So
in Los Angeles
I,
or Las Vegas?
I didn't see that. I didn't see the one in of it being in use in Vegas. I did see the some videos of them testing it, the test runs
Yeah,
that they've done. Um, I think it was the one in L.A. It was like a mile long or whatever.
yeah, that one's pretty cool too. So the one in Vegas, they had a news report the other day. I guess they were doing training runs for the drivers because they are going to be automated and they're going to be 150 miles an hour eventually. But right now, they're doing 35 miles an hour with the driver, and I guess the driver is going to train the AI, and then hopefully they have other jobs for them to do within Tesla once they're done. Because I don't imagine that being even a year-long job, and I mean because it's a known path,
Right.
and
They'll, they'll probably put them at the factory and have them
right,
making the roll come out or something after that.
yes,
Because you're gonna,
uh,
or hey, do you want to transfer over to SpaceX? We need
right.
10,000 new workers in Austin. You want to relocate?
Right. Or they hired them for people to clean the cars in between, and hey, we know you hired for cleaners, but you got a clean driving record. Let's go ahead and have you drive the cars for a little while, and then we'll get back to cleaning. That'd be cool if that was the plan. And so what's going to happen is you'll have an app on your phone. You'll come down the escalator, or you'll already be in the tunnel, depending on what stop you're on. Right now, there's 3 stops, and eventually there are going to be more because Las Vegas has already approved them for more. You'll pull up on your app. It'll tell you what number car to pick, and you'll see the cars coming in the tunnel or already parked, ready, waiting for riders. And you'll see the symbol match, numbers, lights, whatever they use, but right now it's numbers taped to the front of the car. And you'll get in your car and close the door, and then they hit go, and
I think
it
that's
takes
going to
you
be
away.
awesome. It's going to be cool.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting to see how they do it with the charging in between, because they're going to have to recharge, after X number of trips.
Yes.
So maybe those people that they have training the AI now will be the same people going and plugging in the cars and swapping them out.
Exactly. I can see them testing the snake charger there too, because they've got SX and 3, and I think I might have seen a Model Y there. I'm not 100% sure on that. And they'll already be making sure that the car is clean in between runs, wiping down the seats, and I'm not sure how many 150 mile an hour runs you can do, but I did do all night at the drag strip, and I didn't need to charge. I started at 97%, and I finished at 75%, and that was from 8 o'clock at night to midnight, basically, and and it kept rolling. So
The other thing about them being in a tunnel is they're going to have it's such a controlled environment as far as the wind resistance and it being
yeah,
So a tunnel, that'll probably help, as well as the computer's going to know at a certain point, at exactly what point to apply the regen
Yeah.
and recapture a lot of that energy back for it, the slowing down to getting to the end for it to stop, to let
Yeah.
people off. So yeah, I can see them doing it pretty efficiently.
Yeah. So with that one, it'll be kind of. I imagine it'll be much like the trains at the airport, the monorail type trains, where they can pull them off the line. They've got a depot where they do the repairs and the cleanings, and I think it's going to be better than a lot of people who keep saying, "Well, you've just invented a train. Why don't you put a subway down there?" The subway, everybody goes to the same stops at the same time, and if you're on the third stop, you have to wait for it to go to stops 1, 2, and 3. With this system, you get in and you go straight to stop 3. I mean, yeah, you pass 1, 2, and 3, but you don't stop for them because it's like an off ramp with the highway. At that point, the people who need 1 and 2 are pulling off out in front of you. They're not slowing down. They're gone, and then you can stop at 3. And say somebody's at 2 and they need to come back to 1. If for some reason there wasn't a direct route that way, they could go around and do it that way. But there'll be a direct route. And once they add the extra stops, so say there's 12 stops on this new system by the time the year is up, or let's say next year, because you still got to dig through the earth.
Yeah.
So say
That's
next
been
year there's 12
ambitious there.
stops. Yeah. So next year there's 12 stops, and you're at stop 1. And if this is a subway, you would have, well, 1, it's going to take longer to make a subway, and 2, you'd have to stop at 11 extra stops that weren't the ones you wanted for the subway.
That's the other thing about the boring tunnel. They can make the tunnel itself smaller than they would for any other type of system. So it actually building the tunnel is cheaper and quicker.
Yeah. And you can use a cheaper machine, too. Like, it's just cheaper all around.
Right.
And because you're using electric cars all the way through, you don't need as much ventilation, and it just makes sense. And I can't wait to ride it. I have no business in Vegas at the moment, but I think I might find my way over there for a reason, just to ride it.
Yeah, I'd love to try it out.
Absolutely. Maybe we can get a club meet out in Vegas to try it out. So what do you think of the monkey with the Neuralink?
Oh, they got a monkey playing a video game. It's awesome. I mean,
Yes.
that progression. So it seems like it almost feels like just yesterday they were showing off, them monitoring the brainwaves of like a pig, right?
Yeah,
Just
like every time
walking,
his snoot would bump and
or yeah, or the thing would go off every time he would smell food or whatever.
yeah,
Which was cool, but you're like, okay, that's cute. Where are they
yeah,
going with this? But now they got a monkey playing a video game. It's like,
yeah. And that
because a
one was really
monkey's
cool.
brain is a lot more. It's a lot closer to our brains. To
Right.
primates, a lot closer to our brains than a pig's brain.
Yeah. And what's cool about that is the pig physiology is a lot closer to ours than any other animal. So they know that we're not going to reject it, probably, because the pig didn't reject it. And they know that, like, with the monkey brain, that it's close enough to the way ours operates that they will be able to control it back. So with the pig, they were monitoring where every leg had planned to be as it's going out. They're watching the pig walk down the treadmill. But then the monkey is actively controlling with his hand at first. He's just controlling the thumbstick, and then they take the thumbstick away, and then he's just sitting there. He's still got his hand out just because it's habit. But you see him, he's just sucking on his banana smoothie, just watching the game go by, and he's controlling it kind of lazily. And so he's saying that what they'll do is they'll put a Neuralink in the person's brain, and then another Neuralink in their spine, and you can help out some paraplegics to regain their control. Just bypass the brakes, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's where it has humongous potential. You know, having somebody that's a paraplegic or quadriplegic being able to walk again and stuff like
Yeah,
that. I mean, that's life changing for many people. And you're still gonna have your conspiracy theorists and your naysayers say, "Well, whoa, this technology is going too far now. We're you know they're gonna be putting chips in people's brains and They'll be able to remotely maybe control people and make them do things or whatever. Are we gonna have like this complete mind control, or what are they doing, or where are they going? There's gonna be people that are gonna be have those concerns.
Just don't charge it.
But potentially right now, the
Yeah.
potential right now is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, I mean, it's going to be optional. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah. It's
if you
optional.
think those things are going to be terrible, don't get one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exactly,
I'm
Robert.
not going to
It's
force you to
like
get it.
right. It's
It's
just like
going to be
penicillin.
expensive.
Yeah, it's gonna be expensive too. Yeah, just like penicillin. They're not gonna force you to get it. Um, it's optional, and it's world changing. I mean, imagine where we'd be right now if we didn't have antibiotics. I mean,
Um,
it's
Listen,
it's gonna be
think about this. Imagine what the world would be like if we didn't have this technology right here, these
right,
smartphones
right.
that everybody has now. And when they first came out, like people were saying the same things. Like, oh, they'll be tracking you, they'll be doing this, and those things are so fast. Well, yeah, all of that's true, but yet we still all have them
Right? We willingly carry an
because
track device.
because the benefits outweigh the risk to
Yes,
some point.
yes. Just don't take them to crimes. Oh, we saw you here. We captured everything. Well, yeah. I needed to call my mom to come pick me up. But it is very much like the smartwatches as far as they have a day life a day of battery life, and I'm looking forward to for the non medical uses. I'm looking forward to being able to just look stuff up in an instant and pull it from the web through the Bluetooth over my cell phone without having to sending messages just by thought.
Right, like an advanced Google Assistant
Right, right.
or Siri. Well,
Yeah.
I I'd much rather see it like the Matrix. Let me learn a new skill in like 2
Oh, I
minutes.
know Kung Fu.
Let me just
I would like that
download
part.
a new skill. Oh, now I know how to fly a helicopter.
Yes. I'd love that. That's the part I'm looking forward to. I probably wouldn't be one of the first
I
people
think
to get
that's
it.
so many years out. I don't even think we're going to see that.
Yeah. If we get it, though, I'd probably be near the front of the line. I just wouldn't be one of the first people.
No, I'm definitely not going to be the first. But
Yeah. So let's talk about trusting the Tesla trip planner, because you and I have done long distance trips with the Tesla, and the trip planner I'm talking about here is the one in the nav map where you give it a destination and you say go, and it says, hey, you need to stay below 75 if you want to make it there. You need to stay below 55 if you want to make it there. The one on
well,
the
it's
website
strange.
is
They've
for
changed
advertising.
it so many times. It seems like there's different levels. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, at first it was like kind of terrible because they just didn't have enough charging out there. Then it was like really great. It worked beautifully. Now and then it got to the point where it was like, why are you routing me over there? Like that just doesn't seem as efficient as if I went over here. And it's like, I don't know. It's like they're all over the place with it. And I think right now it's like they're trying to avoid you from going to certain stops.
Yeah,
It's like, okay, these are the more popular, more busier stops. Let me route you to a different stop. But
it's
at
like
the
they're trying
same
to load
time,
balance it,
you're doing it at the yeah, they're trying to load balance, but they're doing it at the expense of
the drivers.
the efficiency of the route of where you're going.
Yeah. I do like that they've added the wait timers. So if you come to one that's really busy, you'll have a clock and it'll say that there's a wait. And then just recently they added how long the wait's going to be. They said short wait, medium wait, or long wait. So if you come to the one that's overloaded, hey, I've actually got 100 miles range, and that next one is empty. I'm gonna go there.
Right.
Or if you like don't have charging at home and you use the superchargers as you're charging, you can see, oh, maybe now is a bad time to go. And for that, they added for some places like here around DC and out in California, they've added uh, demand usage. So if you charge at night or some other time when the station's not busy, you get a discount. Versus if you charge when it's busy, they'll charge you actually a little extra than what they have been doing. So
That makes sense.
It does. It makes perfect sense. It's cheaper than building a new station.
Again, they're trying to load balance, right?
Yeah. So what I've started doing is I have because I like the old way where it would only 10 minutes here, 6 minutes there, and you keep on going, right? So I just manually pick my stops for that. But a couple of folks have been thinking that that they can outsmart the system. I mean, it's always a little conservative for me. It's like, yeah, you're going to get there at 2%, and I get there at 6 or 4. Nothing major. And people see it that says, you know, you're going to need charging to complete your trip, and they're like, oh, I got this, and they just start going, and it's then they find out that they can't. Or they start getting the you know, the slow down to complete your journey, and like, oh, it'll be fine, I'll just keep going at full speed.
And that number keeps dropping, like, wait, stay below 75. No, wait, stay below 65. No, you're not listening to me. Okay, stay below 55.
Charging needed to reach a destination.
Right.
Vehicle shutting down due to lack of energy.
Yeah, find out the hard way. Like, yeah, I shouldn't have did that. That was a bad idea.
Yeah. I'm not laughing at their misfortune. It's laughing because the car, it's like I told you so. The car's warning you the whole way through. Hey, please.
Well, the car's telling you. It does warn you. So, I mean, if you run it out, you did that. You can't blame the car. You did it.
Right. Yeah. So even when I'm doing my short charges and hopping from station to station, I still make sure it says I'm going to get there with 2% before I leave. And if there's any weather, like if it's cold, or if I see traffic, or if it's hot or raining.
See, I always try to give myself at least a 10% buffer.
That's what I used to do, and then I got lazy and impatient. So 10% is much more reasonable. 5% if you can't do that. But again, 5% would be something you do on a nice day like today where you don't really need much air conditioning and there isn't a lot of traffic going on. Just in case something happens, you get stuck behind some situation where they've blocked off the whole road and they're medevacing people out of there. You're gonna need to be able to run the air the whole time and deal with the slow, creepy traffic. So I would recommend do like Omar does and keep 10% in there where possible.
Yeah, that's my rule of thumb. I give myself at least a 10% buffer.
Yeah.
And just in case, like, worst case scenario, you get there for some odd reason. I mean, there's some kind of horrible accident or something, or somebody, whatever, it blew up. Who knows? The station isn't there for whatever reason.
Well, that, like the one with the hydrogen station.
Now I can't charge there. What am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So I need a little bit of a buffer to at least be able to get to something else.
Yeah. We saw that. Was it 2 years ago where the hydrogen station blew up in California or New Jersey, and it took out the supercharger with it.
Yeah. I think that was Jersey.
Yeah, because that was one of the last East Coast hydrogen stations outside of Canada.
There was like something blew up, and it was like a huge explosion, whatever, fire and all that, and it took out the supercharger with it. And the crazy thing is, like, there was a news article or whatever, and they were like, "Oh, look, fire at a supercharger." It's like, really? That had nothing to do with the supercharger.
They framed it up because
you're going to blame the supercharger for something that it didn't do.
You can look through the hole in the supercharger, set your focal length to 100 millimeters, and you can see the gas station down that way.
Right behind it, right?
Or sorry, well, there's a hydrogen gas station, and
I think I don't even know. I don't remember. Was that hydrogen? Was it compressed natural gas? I don't know, whatever it was, but it definitely wasn't the supercharger that caused it. But it took the supercharger out.
Yeah. Eddie, we're using the melonapp.com. I've got a link I can send you guys in the chat, and actually I'll put a link in the description of the video when I get done. Get you guys an extra trial. Yeah, exactly. The Neuralink, I think that'll be awesome. All right, how do I? There we go. So with that, you can totally trust the trip planner in the car. I don't know about the one on the website because that's designed to sell cars, and I find that it wants full charges, and I'm finding that the one in the car is wanting to reduce the number of stops rather than reduce the time spent on the road. I don't like waiting at the supercharger. So what I do is I charge as little as I need to, and I keep on rolling. So what if I stop 2 extra times? If I spend an extra, hour on the road rather than an extra hour parked.
Right. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's pretty much what I do too. I'd rather spend less time charging at each stop, and even if I have to stop more times,
Yeah, I wonder if they
if
did
those
that.
stops are shorter, I like that better.
Yeah, I wonder if they did that for like new owners or something because I can't see the functionality of this spending more time charging to reduce the number of stops because it doesn't make any it doesn't
It
benefit
seems
anybody to reduce the
counterintuitive
stops.
because
Yeah,
it doesn't even seem advantageous to Tesla to do that because realistically, you want people to park, charge, leave, and go so that the charger is now available for the next person. You don't want them to have to charge for a longer period of time and sit there while somebody else is waiting.
yes, especially if you're trying to reduce the load on the system.
Right.
Yeah. So I like a better route planner. I've used it a couple times. I can never get the vehicle integration to work the way I wanted it to. I don't know if that's my security or what, but it's
So
pretty accurate.
I've used it to plan out and to see can I make it from A to B, and because it's really pretty good, especially when you factor in your speed and everything else. Like you tell it basically, you know, are you somebody that do you drive at the speed limit? Do you drive above the speed limit a certain amount or whatever?
How
And it
much are you loading your
calculates that
car?
out very well. It
Yeah.
does that really, really well. Um, I was on a road trip and we went through uh, Mississippi and Tennessee and Alabama and all over the place. And on our way back from Alabama to Atlanta, Georgia, we used a better route planner because we weren't sure about. We had to go through like a mountainous area and stuff, and the distance between superchargers. We weren't convinced. The car saying, "Oh yeah, you can make it from here to there," but we just weren't fully convinced, and we used a better route planner. And what's funny about that is the car said one thing, the route planner said a different thing as far as how much charge we would have left when we got to the supercharger. To and a better route planner was dead on. It was right.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
car was off.
Well, because
So
the car is using a fixed number, and better route planner is using the really like, hey, I'm driving 75. I'm not driving 55.
right, right.
or 80.
And it took into account all the variables, the terrain that we were going through. This
Yep.
mountainous terrain.
And you saw they just got that
The
partnership with
weather.
Polestar. The
Even
weather, yeah. They just got that partnership with Polestar. They're in the dash on the Volvo now. Or sorry, the Polestar.
oh really?
Yeah, Volvo owns Polestar, but Polestar. Yeah. So if you put in your trip planner, it's better route planner in the dash of the Polestar. And that I'm hoping they can
That
get.
was smart of them to do that because it
Yes,
works so well. Like why reinvent the wheel? You know what? This works well. Let's use this.
exactly. Especially when you're newer to the market, why not take any advantages that are available to you? I mean, because they've been doing this for years with Better Route Planner. Now, all they had to do is give them the exact parameters from the lab. They could plug it into the model, and boom, you're good to go.
Yep.
Uh,
Plus, a
Robert
better route
Williams.
planner takes into account other, since they're relying on the public charging infrastructure that's out there, like they don't have a supercharger network like Tesla does. It makes
Right,
sense.
right, yeah. Uh, Robert William, they are actually outside of the U.S. They're actually showing the non-Tesla chargers, like in Europe. They show the non-Tesla chargers on the map, and Google, Better Route Planner, and PlugShare all do as well. In the U.S., I don't see why Tesla would do it because they're making money off of the superchargers, and they have no incentive to be egalitarian about it.
Speaking of different apps, I use PlugShare. I had to plan out my whole trip with
Yeah,
PlugShare.
Waze, yes, yeah,
This was going back a few years ago. My MCU failed in my Tesla, so I had no
right.
screen, no
Oh,
center
nice.
screen. I had no
Yeah,
navigation. I had uh, I had no climate control. Navigation. I had no music, and I was in North Carolina and I had to plan out the rest of my trip for everywhere I went in the Charlotte area, and then going back home to Jersey. And what I did is I used PlugShare, and I had to calculate out, okay, how far, where is the next chargers at? I had to find them on PlugShare, and then plot out the mileage of how far with the route. So between Google Maps and PlugShare, that's how I had to plan out my whole trip, which was very painful because I had to
Yes.
go, okay, it's this many miles to get to the charger, plus I have to give myself a cushion. Now, how long do I need to charge when I'm at the charger?
Yeah.
That
And and
was,
and, and with your
and
MCU,
the Tesla couldn't even tell me because I plugged it in, but it charged, but
yeah,
it couldn't tell me really anything about
how full it is, where to go
my
next.
state of charge, like how fast I'm charging or that was painful. But
So
I
how
got through it.
useful, or not obviously how useful, but what does MCU1 show you on the center, oh, not center, but the driver's display when the main MCU is dead like that?
So if I recall, um, it showed speed. Um, Actually, at first it didn't even show like that was broken, but then I did get that to work rebooting it.
Yeah.
Um, so trying to remember, did it show? I can't even remember everything that it was able to show, but it wasn't a lot.
Right.
It wasn't a lot of information. I think it did show, I think, battery percentage bar, like
Right.
if it was low or not. So
Yeah.
so I think I was able to see
How much charge, and if you how
how much
fast you're
charge was
going.
in there. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it would show either percentage or miles based on what you normally would have the setting, whatever the last
Yeah.
setting was before
Right.
the MCU crashed.
Right. And then you
But
get
mine was set
your
to percent, so I had percentage.
yeah, and then your headlights came on and stayed on, and your
The
climate was
headlights came
off.
on; they stayed on the whole entire time. And it drives in like dark mode.
Yeah.
So like whether it's daytime or at night, either way, it has like that nighttime setting where it kind of looks like dark mode.
Yeah.
I guess it just, for safety, it just assumes it's always nighttime, so that way
Right.
your lights are always
Just
on, and it just
blinding you with this big, beautiful display that is mostly empty because the MCU is down. So when you bring that up, that brings up a
yeah.
point that every other Tesla now, including if you were to get yours upgraded to MCU2, if the main MCU is out, you see nothing because the main MCU drives everything on S and X and new S and X and Model 3 and
But
Model
wait,
Y.
the
They
new
only have.
SNX have the other screen though,
Well, I'm saying
don't
like
they?
the one I have, and if you get yours upgraded, and then the brand new ones, they have the small screen like you and I have. But on all these other cars, that center screen drives all the other screens in the car.
Everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so you would see nothing.
you would see nothing. Like mine's rebooted a couple times. Like on my S, when it would reboot, I would still have the screen in front of me telling me speed and stuff. But on the X, when it reboots, I see a big T.
Right, you got nothing.
Yeah.
I have no idea how fast I'm going, but I'm just
I
trying to
don't know,
stay
officer.
fast.
I was just
You know how
matching
fast you
speed.
were going? No, I have no idea.
I just figured since I couldn't tell, I'd match everybody else till the thing came back. Which is fun when you get into a reboot loop. When you get 2 or 3 reboots in a row, it's like, oh, good gracious.
Yeah,
But on 3 and Y, you also get nothing, but there's nothing in front of you that you might think might work as well. So I think that if those ones start to have the same situation with the wearing of the memory, they won't, not the way that the current ones do, because they finally adjusted their logging. But they wouldn't be able to use that. Oh, it's just a nuisance argument. They would have to fix them because the car is gone without the screen.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see, where did we go here? My screen scrolled on me.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that
I would
screen
like to
is
see
definitely
ways.
everything.
Yeah, I'd like to see ways in the app because it's nice to know like object on road ahead or speed trap ahead. I mean, not that I speed that much, but if they're running the speed
Now,
trap,
aren't they using? So they use aren't they using like Google Maps or some overlay of that?
yeah, they're
And then
doing the Google Maps overlay.
Tesla uses their own AI for navigating you because obviously they have to factor in the chargers.
Yeah.
But so I thought that they were using for traffic,
Well,
like the Waze data, because
Google
Google
uses the Waze data to
has that
display their
integrated
stuff.
into Google Maps,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but they don't show you the details that Waze does with object on road or speed trap, that sort of thing.
Right.
Because when you got a speed trap, they're a little more aggressive about your speed. So the 5 miles an hour goes out the window for how many they're trying to catch. It's like, oh no,
Right.
you're from out of state. You're doing 3 over, buddy. We'll see you in court, or you can pay this ticket.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but the the rest of it's also kind of nice, like the being able to report, hey, I see there's a tree fell on the street. You might want to go around, versus just seeing the big red, like where everybody stopped, and it just getting redder and redder. Those would be nice to see on the screen. Let's see here. Not sure of the question here, Andrews. How much he charged, or
Oh, the app. Yeah. So when my MCU had failed, the app, I couldn't see anything in the app that because it
yeah,
couldn't
because the
connect to the
modem,
car.
yeah, the modem's on the
Because
MCU.
it yeah it does all that functionality off the MCU.
Well, Eddie, my Volt had the same problem when the computer froze on my Volt. I didn't know how fast I was going. I couldn't listen to the radio. I couldn't control the headlights. So this is not a Tesla problem. This is a modern car problem, because I also
Right.
have this
All
on my.
nowadays are all computerized and they're all drive by wire. Even gas cars are drive by wire and they're
Yeah,
all
I was about to say my Civic did it too.
so
Yeah. The good thing is my Civic only did it once, and the Tesla reboots pretty quickly. So that one, it's done it probably about 20 times over the 4 years between the two cars, and the Volt would do it mostly when I hung up the phone. So I got a little paranoid about being on the phone.
don't hang up, don't hang up.
I'm almost where I need to go. But the good thing is all of them have made the actual driving and stopping and steering separate from what the display computer is doing. So even though you can't see what's going on, you're still good. Yeah, and then Autopilot 1, Autopilot 2.5, Full Self Drive, they are all also independent. Well, not Full Self Drive, but regular version of Autopilot for that are all independent of the MCU. So if the MCU reboots or goes down for any reason and you're in Autopilot, the car will keep tracking the lane ahead, keep tracking the car ahead. It will stop changing lanes on its own, and it will stop following the route on its own, because the route is gone when the computer's gone. But from what I'm understanding is sometimes they actually will even load in a portion of the Navigate on Autopilot, so that if there is a lane change coming up when the car wants to reboot, it will change highways still. But that's not a guaranteed part. Typically what's guaranteed is it will just track the lane and not run into people.
It basically won't crash.
Right. And
That's the important thing. Don't crash.
Yeah. I had a video in 2019 where I found they actually added a speaker at the bottom of the steering column. I didn't realize. I mean, it had been in there since my car was built in 2018, but it was never active, because I reboot on Autopilot all the time, just because I do. And at that time, I was in Autopilot and I steered, and it said doo-doo, but it was like 8-bit. It wasn't the quality that you get from the premium sound system. I was like, what is that? And I turned it back on and steered out again, doo-doo, and then it's like, this is really weird. And I recorded it, and then one of the Tesla mobile techs confirmed to me that yes, they actually did activate that speaker, and it had been in there on all the MCU2 cars, where there's a speaker at the base of the steering wheel, steering column, so that the car can still give you warnings even when the MCU is down. I don't know how much more they do with it than letting you know that you're not in Autopilot anymore. Yeah. He said,
but that's smart though. That's smart of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if the Bolt is anything like the Volt, you'll run into one or two oddities. Your steering and your brakes and your acceleration, the lightning pedal will still work. So nothing to be afraid of with this. What I am curious though is the steer-by-wire. Is it going to be just as robust? I guess we got to get somebody on from Canoe.
It probably will. They'll probably That's separate from the rest of the MCU. I'm sure,
Yeah.
like the rest of the other systems in the car.
Yes. Oh,
So the
sorry, we're
car will
nerding out
still
here.
function as a car.
Exactly. Yeah, we're nerding out here. The MCU is the media control unit, or as our friend Purcell likes to call it, the main control unit. But it's media control unit, which is your main computer in the car for the Teslas. Uh, Chevy calls it the DIC, DIC. I don't know why. Driver Information Center, but I think they did that on purpose. And Honda called it something else, and Tesla calls it Toyota calls it the MFD, which is not the MF display. It's the multifunction display they call theirs. So
I
everybody's
guess
got
they all
different.
had to call. I guess they all had to call it something different. They couldn't
Well, because
probably
they
in
all.
their patent somewhere. Oh no, it has to be called patent. So you can't call it that, or we'll sue you. So
I think it's a not
they all
invented
call it
here
something
syndrome.
different. But
I think it's not invented here syndrome because like if you were at Chevy and you moved over and they called it the DIC, you're like, that's a stupid name. I'm not going to call it this. And if you're at Toyota and they call it the MFD, you're like, oh, that sounds like a stupid name as well because it sounds like you're cussing out the display. But I guess center screen is too generic for them. I don't know. Probably just a case of not invented here.
everybody can't just call it the main screen or main
Right,
display.
exactly. The main computer or the master computer. Well,
Right. So
we're getting rid of ableist language.
when I
So
first when I first heard Tesla called the MCU, I'm like, oh okay, yeah, the
main control unit.
main computer unit or
Yeah, yeah.
that's what.
Yeah, but it stands for Media Control Unit for whatever reason. But yeah, the main computer, and then the screen in front of Omar and me is called the Binnacle, and I believe they're still going to call it that on the refresh cards as well because that actually just means the space in front of the steering wheel. But we'll see what happens with that. Testbox is about to drop their second shipment. Testbox is they mailed me a first Testbox. I got a video coming out on that. I got a hat and a couple of other accessories. And so their second model unit's about to come out, and its hint is supercharged. So it's probably going to be a bunch of stuff to deal with supercharging. And they have two different types of kits. They have one for Tesla owners and one for Tesla fans or want-to-be owners. And then they've also got a questionnaire before each one comes out so that you get accessories that are more tailored to stuff you'd be interested in. But it's just like a loot box where you subscribe to it and you get a monthly shipment of whatever. I'll have a link to that in the description down below as well. So I'll put a link to Melon and a link to the test box. And they didn't pay me to say that, but I did get a free test box to see what it was all about. And do we want to talk about three-wheelers or toxic fans?
Three-wheelers.
Yeah. All right. So we've got three-wheelers I wanted to talk about. Our friend Dan loves the Arcimoto, so I was hoping that he'd be on so that we could talk about the Arcimoto because I don't get it. I mean, I get the concept, but I don't see why a normal person would be interested in it. It's basically a covered motorcycle with open doors. They might add doors. It looks cool, but it'd be great for like city deliveries, pizza deliveries, urban rescue, that sort of thing. I don't personally get it.
For some people, it would be fun. It's like an alternative to some of the other like three-wheel motorcycle type things that are out there.
Yeah, like the what's the thing called, the slingshot and a couple others like that.
Yeah, like the slingshot or like
Okay,
the
so just for fun to get the wind in your hair.
yeah. So for a fun vehicle like that, I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat. It's an alternative, something different, and they're all electric, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah, that would be true on that one. No computers from 1938, but you'd be surprised how
No,
quickly they got added to the car really fast. Like it was in the early 80s when they started adding fuel injection is when you started to see the computers in the car, and they just got more and more powerful because that's what they do.
right. And now at this point, I mean, it's funny. I was just talking to my father-in-law the other day, and his one of his cars is in a shop, and he has a loaner, and it's a You know, they always give you the brand new car with all the bells and whistles because they want to
Well,
encourage you to
absolutely.
upgrade.
Yeah.
So he was complaining about the vehicle that they gave him because the gear shift is so different. It's not a regular gear shift, and because they don't have to do a regular gear shift anymore, because I mean, all cars are to drive by wire. You know, when cars first came out, with they were first of all they weren't automatics; they were manual, and because of the need, because they were physical, they had to put a shifter in a certain way. You
Yeah,
know, and you
because
had to
you're
shift a certain
directly
way
interfacing with the
because you're
transmission.
directly actually doing it, right?
Yeah.
But now, because it's all computerized, it's all done completely by the computer, they can do any type of shifter that they want.
Yeah. Some of them are better than others. Oof, some of them are like these weird octopus-looking things. It's like, you want me to do what with that?
Yeah, and this particular one is super weird. It's like, what? You have to turn this knob thing? It does what? And you, wait, what?
Yeah. Or like my
So like
Volt, my Volt, my
some of them are counterintuitive that don't make sense. It's like, okay, you push forward to go into reverse, but putting backwards to go into drive,
yeah.
or I'm in. Oh wait, and to go
Or you
into
have
low
the
gear, you
or you have
gotta.
the wheels.
Yeah, you have the wheel. You have to
Yeah.
turn it. It's like, which way do
Or
you
it's
have to
all on
turn?
screen.
And
Yeah, some of them are all on screen, like the oh, shoot, I can't remember which one it was now. And then the new Tesla as well is all on screen, if you interface with it at all. I
yeah, the new
liked,
Tesla with the auto shifting thing, I think that's a little weird, and it's going to be, you know, the car trying to figure it out on its own, like what makes the most sense.
I hope it's as good as they say. Well, the other ones that are fun for me are like my Volt had this big, huge honking shifter, and you're like, it's just moving this little bitty switch. It's not doing anything. It's taking up half of my console for this shifter that doesn't need to be that big. And then like
Right.
on my Tesla and my Prius, they had this little nubbin, and it flings back into place. But
And then the Leaf, my Nissan Leaf has this little weird knob thing that you move it over and down or over and up, and
yeah,
it snaps back in place. It's like a
right.
little weird.
Yeah, just like the Leaf. Yeah. So Robert Williams, yes, that's exactly what not the Aptera. That's exactly what the Archimoto is, and that's how I envision it. I just don't understand why a person, like a personal person, would want to own it. But if like Omar's saying it's like the slingshot, then it's just probably somebody who wants the wind in their hair. And I don't know. I don't like getting wet, so I don't know. I just envision driving and it's raining and I'm getting wet.
So don't drive it in the rain.
I understand. It's just this mental block I have with it.
Have you ever had a motorcycle, Casey?
No,
See, there's your problem.
I had a bicycle and
I had a
getting
motorcycle. I used to ride,
yeah,
and so see, I understand the fun factor,
yeah.
and I understand the why you would want to do that.
I'll get back to trying it again when the when self driving cars become popular, because right now there's just too many people not paying attention for me to feel comfortable on a motorcycle.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I gave up my bike. It's just so dangerous because
Yeah,
not because of me, but because of other people.
right. So I think if there's a computer out there driving most of the people, then I'll have a better chance of making it. Yeah, that's what we were talking about last week with how it rains like clockwork in Florida. So that's why I'm always imagining that it's raining, even though I live in these places where it doesn't rain every
Speaking
day.
of rain,
It's raining where you are now, in Florida.
speaking of rain, yeah, I happen to be in Florida right now, and we're having a thunderstorm right now.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear it if it's coming through, but it's raining right now.
There was a boom earlier. So our friend Mahogany, she drives another three-wheel car called the Solo, and I was assuming it was like the Archimoto, where it was two seats, tandem, like a motorcycle. I was surprised to find out it actually had one seat. So I mean, that's truth in marketing right there to call it the Solo. It holds one person. You're riding solo, baby.
I mean, I guess that's super efficient if all you're doing is like
Can
going
be.
back and forth to work by yourself and you're not carpooling or anything. I mean, then it makes sense, you know, have a
Yeah.
solo.
Right, and that one is fully enclosed, and so that one I didn't have that same concern with. It looks like a much bigger car than it is, because the profile from the front. It's got the two front wheels and the low slung. It's got the three headlights. It just looks bigger than it really is. And I was Nikki from Transport Evolved actually took one for a test drive, and that was an experience just to watch it. And, her complaint was that it's priced a little high, but if her argument was that if they use it the same way they use the Arcimoto, but fully enclosed, like say instead of pizza delivery, say maybe you're delivering organs or something, and you need it to be a real car, this might be an option, even at the price, because you only need one person, and it takes up less space on the ground, like about half the space of a regular car. And then my favorite, the Aptera. I've got 2 green models under my Tesla Tequila. They were testing this week at the track. They trailered them down to the drag strip, and they're these are betas. And when they launched them, it was kind of inconsistent how it launched. Like, cause, the one they're launching is a 3-wheel drive, and not the 2-wheel drive that's coming out first. And so when it launches, it'll kind of tweak left or right, and you see it catch, and it's like a little fish running down the track. And then to kind of play it off, they had a slalom at the end of the drag race. So they finish the drag race, and then they gotta get around the cones, and so the motors aren't tuned yet. The suspension isn't even started tuned yet. It doesn't have anti-sway bars. So I think once they get the sway bars on it, it will. Yeah, Eddie. Yeah. So I think once they get the sway bars on it, it'll be fun. If you reserve an Aptera using my code down below in the description, then you get a discount. And if I get 26 of them, then I get a free Aptera that I can bring to review on the channel. So if you're interested in...
I like the idea of the Aptera.
Yeah.
It could be a nice little commuter car or something.
Yeah. And that's why I want to get it, because it's 1,000 miles, self-recharging, because it's got the solar panels, and it seats 2, so it's perfect for me to ride on the turnpike here, because it's just me. And the three wheels is less tires to buy. It's more efficient, 1,000 miles per charge. It's
but you can't avoid any potholes. You're hitting all of them.
Yeah, probably. Because it was originally going to be 1,000 miles per gallon when the first one was out. It was going to be a hybrid, and thankfully they dropped the combustion element of it, and it's just a battery now, 100 kilowatt hour battery or so. Because you can get smaller ones, and yeah. So if you use my code down below, you get a discount on your reservation. If I get 26 of them, I get a free one. I'll bring it in for the channel, and like I said, I will use it to commute, and I'll make videos on it. So. Because it's got a very similar computer setup to the Model 3.
Did they announce how big the battery packs are going to be on that?
They didn't announce all of them, but they did announce that the big one is 100 kilowatt hours.
Oh, is it that big? Okay, I'm surprised it's that big, because as efficiently as they made the car, which is why it looks the way it does for that crazy aerodynamics. I know their biggest thing was trying to get the most miles per kilowatt. Be the most efficient vehicle possible, which is what makes their solar panel useful, is because the amount of energy that you're capturing off of a solar roof on a car. One of the reasons why Tesla doesn't do it is because their cars are so heavy and big. Yes. They feel as though they're not gaining enough energy to gain enough miles per day to make it really, really useful.
Right, and then you lose that beautiful glass roof too.
That too. So that's one of the things about Aptera was how efficient they're making the vehicles makes it make sense as far as using the solar portion.
Right. And Eddie, you're not inaccurate to say that it's self-charging for commuters. I mean, you might get another 5-10 miles on a long trip from the solar panels, because they don't disconnect the solar panels just because you're driving down the road. If there's space in the pack, then those panels are open, and once the pack is full, then they close that connection. So you might get 1,005 miles if you drive perfectly the way they drive the tests, and the sun is shining down on the car the whole way. But that's the thing, though, is it is a commuter car. I mean, the only time you'd see me take that on a trip is if I just need me and a bag, an overnight bag, and it's within 1,000 miles radius for me to go and come back, Otherwise, I'm going to take the more comfortable, the Tesla, especially if I'm taking my wife and we're taking luggage, because
you're not going to have that kind of room in it.
Exactly. But they do have lane keep assist and the radar cruise, just like the Tesla, just like the Chevy, and everybody else has. They did say they're going to do some sort of something similar to Navigate on Autopilot. We'll see. my big concern was I didn't want to go back to manually controlling a car because I've been spoiled now. I don't mind changing lanes. I don't mind any of that, but I don't want to. I don't want regular cruise control while you're running up the rear of everybody, and I don't want to have to manually control it, which is even worse.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're definitely
like
spoiled. First world problems.
It is. It totally is. I mean, I do like to drive, but I don't like to drive in traffic because it's soul crushing.
Yeah, when you're in that stop and go traffic, and it's just, well, yeah, you're in the DC area and you're in a terrible rush hour traffic. Like, who wants to?
I see so many people get the road rage, and for me, it's just like I'm just chilling, listening to my music, listening to my audiobooks or podcasts, whatever. And I mean, it's no fun.
You're not getting as frustrated because the car is doing it for you, right?
Right. It's no fun, and I still get upset when people like make weird moves at me, but I'm not over there just working myself into a rage, and and you're looking at other people like, oh well. And so that's the other reason I don't like driving a stick as my main car, because my main car is my commuter, and I end up in traffic, and I don't have time to sit there rolling the gears every 5 seconds. It's just no fun. And but I do like to. LA Rush Hour, exactly the same.
That workout though.
I don't need a workout on one
foot.
You
don't like that clutch leg workout,
right? If I'm working out, I want both legs worked out, not one. Yeah. Right. LA and DC are very, very similar. LA is a little bit harder, I think, than DC, because at least in DC in the morning they'll let you in to get to work. It's like, hey, we're all getting to work. This sucks. You can get in too. Let's go. After work, they are not letting you in after work. I gotta get home. I got food on the grill. Let's go. Oh man. So yeah, we talked about Archimoto. We talked about the Solo. We had our Aptera update, and yeah, so Nikki actually drove all of these. I don't know what happened to her video on the Aptera. I saw her coming up to the one that did the drag strip races where it didn't have the wheel pants on or the skirt in the back, and it looked really cool. I'd like to see what she thinks of it in the beta. She also did the Lucid Air beta. She had a really busy weekend in California. Or week.
So the Lucid Air, they started running these commercials, like you're seeing them on TV and stuff. Like they're dumping some real money into advertising. Like, hey, we're coming out. This is a thing. We're going to be making these vehicles. So I'm actually pretty. I'm kind of excited about that. I like the way the Lucid Air looks. I like the looks of it, and it's just going to be interesting to see how it does. I know they're trying to compete with Model S.
Yeah.
So.
I'll have to take Purcell
to
the Experience Center in DC.
I like competition. Competition is always good for consumers.
It is.
So I like to see somebody else coming out.
Exactly, because if somebody we saw it all last year. Every time somebody got close to Model S, when Porsche got close to the speed, Elon would crank the speed up on the Model S. Somebody got close with the range on the Model X. Elon would crank the range up to something they couldn't even touch. Lucid came up with the range on the Model S. Elon cranked the range up. And then Lucid
the Taycan was starting at 70,000, so
he lowered the price to 69.
Lowered the price up to 69,420.
Well, first he did 69.9, and then he did 69,420.
Yeah,
because they said, oh yeah, you have 69.9, we can do that. 69.8. He's like, all right, 69,420, and then Lucid came out. They did the same thing. They said, all right, we'll do the range, and so Elon cranked the range. Oh, we can do the speed, so Elon cranked the speed, and so this competition is good for everybody because. It keeps them trying to catch up with Tesla, which means that if you want to pick that other option, that you get a great option. It means if you're going to pick a new Tesla, that your new Tesla has to beat those options if it's going to be compelling. So it keeps everybody fighting, which is, I'm not fighting in a bad way. It keeps all the manufacturers competing and doing their best, bringing their A game.
Right. They have to constantly try to outdo each other, which is great for us consumers.
Yes. And speaking of fighting, we have had some toxic fans, and
What's up, Dan?
Jump on the stream, Dan. So, we want to talk about our friend Sergio and his experience with being a Tesla and Ford owner and Hyundai.
Oh yes. So
yes.
He did his cross country, his Mach-E, and he liked it. He had a great experience. He was fortunate with the charging that, places he went, the chargers worked. They worked very well. very
and fast.
fast. The Electrify America, that network it's rolling out, and it's great.
Yeah,
And I think that's fantastic, right? So he talked about how comparing it to the Model S and his Ford Mach-E, how much he likes his Mach-E.
yeah.
He enjoys it. I think it's great for him. Uh, and unfortunately, there's some people that were hating on him for how much he praised the Mach-E, and I can't get behind that. I think that's wrong. It's not cool at all. You know, just like our friend Eddie here in the chat, he has his Chevy Bolt, and he loves his Bolt, and he loves Chevy, and it's great. It works for him. It's a nice car, and it works good. There's no reason for me to hate on that.
But see, that's the
I
thing,
mean,
Dan. Is Sergio is a Tesla owner and a Tesla fan. He doesn't agree with 100% of what they do, but I mean, you probably shouldn't. I mean, because if you agree with 100% of what they do, then you're not being
and that
true
makes
to
it a
what.
cult. It makes it if you're 100% on every single thing that they're doing 100% of the time, then that's cultish behavior to me.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
because
not
they do
always going
make
to agree
mistakes, and
100% on everything they do.
yeah, I mean, there's stuff that we would like to see them do better or do different. Um, but overall, we're satisfied with them. That's why we're called fans, and that's why we're both looking at getting new ones. If we didn't agree with anything they did, then that's called a hater, and they may have earned it. They may not have earned it. But then you wouldn't see us coming back to give them more money.
Right.
I had some folks asking for proof. I don't think you need to see the proof. Um, I know why you might want to, but this man is a man of integrity. He is a veteran. He served our country with honor, and I've seen the stuff, but it's not my place to share it. And I didn't save anything because that would be a violation of trust. And there were some very nasty messages, and these are just cars. These
Oh,
are just companies. Elon doesn't know us. He will probably never meet us, or I mean, I'm sure he's a very empathetic dude. So if he were to hear about something bad happening to one of us, I'm sure he would express empathy for that. He would feel it. I mean, this is the man who cried because people were having to choose between food and air conditioner in Australia. So I mean, I'm not saying he's evil, but I'm saying that he doesn't know us, and doing all this standing for him isn't healthy. He's a very smart dude. And he
now,
doesn't deserve the smear campaign that's going against him. People are making up lies against him, so that's
and
not
I
cool
defend I
either.
defend Tesla a lot when
Yeah,
it's warranted. When it makes sense. Um, because they do get a lot of bad and negative press from the shorters and the haters and stuff that just want to
yeah,
see them burn. But at the same time, there are certain things that they could do better on. And so if somebody calls them out and says, hey, they could do better on their fit and finish or the panel gaps or whatever
yeah.
the beef is that they have. I mean, I'm not going to knock them for pointing something out and saying, hey, they could do better in this area.
Right, and the response that everybody's got paddle gaps. This is also true, but it's not helpful to Tesla. Tesla needs to work on their quality some more sometimes, and they have. We've seen their quality go up leaps and bounds over the years. But to just give them a pass because everybody else is doing poorly as well doesn't help everybody. Because if suddenly Tesla ships their cars with no panel gaps and their fit and finish is perfect, they never have to come in for adjustment, and everybody else has to go into adjustment for a bunch of times, what do you think they're going to do? They're either going to lower their prices or they're going to start doing better as well. A rising tide lifts all boats, and that's what that was the other part that annoyed me about this is Elon isn't fighting a brand war. He keeps saying, "I need everything electric. I need all transportation electric now, so that we can fight climate change."
Right.
And we're
And
over here squabbling for no reason.
and one of the funny things is what Sergio pointed out with his experience with taking a road trip is that the way the Mach-E charges, the way it handles it right now, number one, that may change over time because Ford doesn't have the amount of years of experience that Tesla does with dealing with batteries and charging batteries and stuff. So the way it handles it right now, uh, it charges super fast and it holds that speed for a longer period of time over the state of charge of the battery. Then when it drops off like a rock. But it it does hold it long enough that you're getting very useful amount of range in a very short period of time for you to jump back on the road, which is excellent.
Yeah, and
One of the
just
other
like the Tesla, when it drops, if it drops, unplug and go to your next one because it's only going to get
right,
slower from there. I wish that
exactly.
Tesla and Ford and Porsche and everybody would make that clear. Hey, I'm slowing down. You should get on the road again. Go ahead and continue. I'm sorry.
Well, so one of the other things was that the availability of chargers and everything. They when he got there, they were available, they were working. He had a good experience with that. However, something that the Tesla fanboys, instead of being haters and hating on Sergio for his take and what he saw, what they could have pointed out was, you know, in the earlier days when there were a lot less Teslas on the road, guess what? Those superchargers were pretty much always available as well, and you don't run into an issue where you're sharing charge on a version 2 superchargers where your charge is not quite as fast as it could potentially be and all that because there weren't as many Teslas on the road. Well, guess what? The same thing's going to happen with this Electrify America network. As more EVs come out and are on the road, they're going to start filling up. And especially because of the fact that they're not just one brand that's going to be using them. With Electrify America, you're going to have Hyundai, Ford, Chevy, like everybody. Anybody in every brand is going to be using them, except for maybe the Tesla guys. They'll be using the Tesla network. So on the Tesla network, Tesla's still going to have the advantage on the charging because they're going to be basically only dealing with people that are on their brand.
Hmm.
Whereas Electrify America is going to be trying to support every brand and every car maker out there.
There is Elon has said several times he's got the Tesla network open. We'll see if anybody takes him up on his offer. But there's been rumors, and we've seen signs that he may just interface directly with those customers, and there'll be Tesla customers driving a VW, Tesla customers driving a Mach-E, and you'll just get on your app. So on the Mach-E, it identifies itself when you plug in. On the VW, it doesn't. So you would have to maybe have an adapter on your Volkswagen that identifies itself, and on the Mach-E, you would just need a cheaper adapter that just converts the pins, and you wouldn't not like you pay with a card anyway. You just plug in, and the system knows who you are. And at the end of the week, end of the month, whenever it decides to do a draw, it draws all the charging that you've done for that period. And if you are too far delinquent, then you can't charge anymore. And then eventually they send you a bill. But so we're going to see that probably as well. And then with all these cars exploding, not exploding, bad example, with the numbers of these cars increasing so greatly, we might see Electrify America and their competitors start to put in these massive 100 stations like we see with the Tesla starting to do, like in Santa Clara and others, where they've got know the drive-in theater with the roller derby, not the roller derby, the roller skate deliveries of your food from the
The,
touchscreen
the,
at the
the,
app.
yeah, like big in the huge lounge areas and all this other fancy stuff.
Yeah, and Elon brought that up again, so it's not off the radar. He literally said the new one is going to have it, and then Harris Ranch has confirmed that their site is requesting permit for 100 supercharger stalls. So this is going to be phenomenal to watch this space.
Now,
Eddie
Dan brought
says,
up in the chat. He's saying Dan just brought up in the chat about the Rivian network, and
"Oh yeah, Rivian's got their own
my
network,
beef
so
with Rivian with their own network is that that's going to be confusing for people. The simple
yes,
fact is they're using CCS. So
standard
and if
plug."
it's Rivian only and it will only work on the Rivian vehicles, but yet it's using CCS, which is physically the same plug that all these other manufacturers are using that they can physically plug into, that's confusing for people.
Yeah, we've
And,
seen that in
and
Europe with Tesla because they use CCS in Europe, and people show up and actually for a little while it was working in Germany. It was working for the other people, but it doesn't typically work for anybody on a normal CCS plug that's not driving a Model 3 or a Tesla with an adapter. Yeah, so that's but at the same time, it's just like the Teslas. Their non DC charger works with everything. So the slower Rivian charger works with everything, and there's no restrictions. So it's going to be confusing on this side. I mean, over in Europe they probably already get it, but here it's new for us. So I don't see how that's going to go. Yeah, so I said he's not going to give up his car. Um, Anders is
And I
asking,
think what needs to happen eventually is when it comes to the different charging networks, whether it's Electrify America, whether it's Rivian, whomever, what they need to do is just institute a way, some form of, okay, if you're part of their network, like let's say Rivian, and you have a Rivian vehicle, maybe you charge for free, or maybe you charge at a certain
right,
price point rate. And
right.
then if you have any other type of vehicle that's not theirs, then maybe you
You just
pay
pay more.
more, a higher
Yeah,
rate or something.
I think that's the way
And
to
you
handle
should
it
be
because it
able to pay
increases
for
charging
it,
for everybody.
maybe, maybe you directly pay for it, whether it's using an app that you have to just sign up and create an account for, or maybe you should, or direct payments with credit card or something,
So, so,
you know.
yeah,
But I think eventually that's what really ultimately should happen,
yeah.
because I
And that's what
mean,
Tesla's doing, and that's what Electrify America is doing. I think everybody would be best served if everybody had access to charging. And like
right,
you said,
because it's not
you get a
like
discount for getting
it's,
the right one, but you're not locked out either.
and just like right now with gas cars, it's not like, oh,
I can't go to Shell because I have a
I
Ford. It
can't
has to
go
go to
to
BP.
Shell, I have to go to or I have to go to BP, or I have to go to, you don't have to pick and choose what brand you're going to go
Right.
fill up
But that doesn't
your
mean that your brand doesn't have a partnership. Ford does have a partnership with BP. They're like, hey, our cars run better on BP gas.
right.
That's up to the scientists to tell if that's true or not. But literally, when you opened up some of those old Fords, they had a BP logo on the gas cap. Now they don't have gas caps, so I don't know if they still have that. But Eddie, I disagree. I don't call this is not everybody, and our friend Rich Rebuilds and myself, I call them musketeers, as they're the toxic Tesla fans. And I think one of the points one of the people asking for proof was trying to make out is that some of these are not actually fans; they're people in the smear campaign. But it doesn't matter where they really are. There's no reason to give somebody a death threat, false flag or not, over the car they picked. It's a car. Don't do it. And Robert Williams says his friend was beaten up for having a Tesla and lost his eyes. Ooh. Yeah, I mean,
That's terrible.
people used to do this over the Prius and still do, and yeah, I see. You've seen those trucks going around with the identify as a Prius on the back, and one Priuses don't use superchargers, and two, the homophobia is not required, and three, just because you say it is doesn't mean that plugging in does anything. So they're offending so many groups at once, and just because you're being offensive, like we saw with that guy's nephew last week, just because you think being offensive is edgy, it doesn't mean it's cool. And if you come across the wrong person with that, it could be deadly. So, just this troll culture has to go. The troll culture, and worse, the actual people who are being serious with their cultishness. But to get on
Yeah,
to
it's ridiculous.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Elon is the face of the company. He's their spokesperson. But just because he does some stuff doesn't mean that everything he says represents the company. Because he'll tell you the difference quickly. Sorry to hear that, Robert Williams. That's your dad's car in the garage. Yeah, they have different experiences. Tesla as a battery manufacturer, Ford manufactures things. Ford's been running for 100 years. Yeah, VW is married to Electrify America because they own them both. And yeah, public chargers, they see all different cars because they're compatible with everything. So that's the way that the Tesla public chargers are, assuming you've got an adapter, and that's the way that the Rivians are because they use a standard plug. So there is level 1 in Europe, but no public chargers are, well, I don't say no, but very few public chargers are level 1 because they charge at 2 to 5 miles an hour. And at 2 to 5 miles an hour, it's almost not worth the effort to plug in unless you want a little bit extra top up.
Unless you're going to be there for a really long time, like
Or you're going to
overnight.
be there a long time. More than overnight on most cars, because you're talking days for most cars.
You're talking,
It'll
yeah,
work.
2 days at least, but if at least if you're there overnight,
Right.
getting something out of it. So it's like, okay, well, you know, I'm there for 10 hours, getting, you know, 3 or 4 miles an hour. Okay, at least I got 30, 40 miles of range out of it.
Right. And that part I like.
And
Um,
that part's enough to get you at least to the next supercharger or something.
Right. And that's the good part about most of the chargers that are offered being level 2 is that, you stop to buy your groceries and you've added 20, 30 miles to the charge. You go to the movies and you've added, 100 miles easily. So, when everything opens up again, we're almost there. You've got your shots. I've got one of mine. Got the other one on Wednesday. Or got the other one coming on Wednesday. Everything is looking up. So, Anders is asking about how it'll go when FSD runs on all Teslas and the others run as usual. Will the accidents not increase? The Tesla drives legally and stops for red. I think it'll still be safer because they'll be predictable. And Teslas do accelerate for yellow sometime, depending on whether the car thinks it can make it or not. I've seen this on the FSD beta on other people's cars. The light turns yellow and somebody crosses across. I think Gali and Shelby Church shared a video where this guy is turning left to try and beat the light, and their car had already committed to going through the yellow. It slows down for a second for the guy passing across, where my car would slam on the brakes, and after he clears the path, then it speeds up to finish clearing the intersection before the light turns red. And then you can see this today with my car, where as it's approaching a yellow, if it doesn't think it can make it at all, it will apply the brakes. Or if it's not sure, it'll kind of let off the acceleration, and then if it thinks it'll make it, it'll pick back up pretty much as quick as possible.
Yeah, I definitely don't think the accidents are going to increase with some Teslas on full self-drive, and some of them, don't have it. The older Teslas,
if they all have it versus just Teslas having it and other cars don't, I think that
if all vehicles had it, it would be a lot safer. But even if only let's just say only newer Teslas have it and other vehicles don't, it's not going to necessarily. I don't think it's going to increase accidents, because in fact, Tesla has already shown that the vehicles that do have autopilot or full self-drive, those vehicles are already a lot safer and getting a lot less accidents. So the number of miles per accident is a lot higher. It goes, a lot more miles before they get in. When you average it out amongst all the cars, the amount of miles per accident is way higher in the cars that have
human pilot,
autopilot or full self-driving compared to vehicles that don't.
Yeah. So, I think that the accidents will go down a lot, because, the only thing you'll have left are crashes, no accidents. And with the Teslas being so predictable, I think that most of the crashes you'll have are where they're the victim because somebody wasn't paying attention. I don't think that they'll do... I don't think that they're going to... From what I've seen, I don't think they're going to be fastidious. The law is X. I'm going to do X to the T. When I was watching a lot of people's full self-driving videos, they actually do rolling stops if there's nobody at the other signs. They go to 1 mile an hour and they keep on going. It's like, I didn't see 0 on that speedometer, buddy. But if there's other people at the stop sign, it comes to a complete stop. It checks to see what turn it is. Right now it's getting confused as to when it's its turn, but if it's not its turn for sure, it'll wait for the other person to go. And I think that is going to see us have less problems all around. And then they don't get raged, they don't get tired, they don't get distracted. So I think, like I said, they're going to be the victim in a lot of these things where you're going to see people running into the Teslas rather than the Tesla causing a problem.
So the Teslas, I don't think there's going to be an issue with a lot of people just running into the back of Teslas like, oh, I didn't think he was going to stop for that light that was just turned yellow, because it's not like the Teslas are going to be just slamming on their brakes real hard. Like, right. Oh, the light just turned yellow, slam on the brakes. Because like you said, it even now, if the light just turned yellow as it's getting to the intersection, it'll go ahead and take it.
Yeah, because it knows even in the worst...
Because it knows it can make it, so it'll just take it.
Yeah, it knows how fast it's going, it knows how far to go places. And even in the worst states, the ones that are going for the tickets, they don't care about safety, where they've got the yellow light at the bare minimum or lower for the amount of time for the yellow. It knows how long it takes to clear the intersection. And with a properly safety designed yellow light, then that's even better, because the computer is safer than a human at working the pedals and estimating distance. So I think that will be a good part there. The chat just jumped, but people are checking. Recorded cams, yeah. So the Teslas do record everything now if you give them a drive to do it with, and everybody needs dash cams anyway. Even if you're driving a gas car, it's just better. I've been in a collision that would have cost me a lot more had I not had a dash cam running, and hopefully the courts prevail and I get my money back. But we'll see.
And for quite a few years, dash cams has been very, very popular overseas, over in Europe, and especially especially popular in Russia.
Yeah.
Where
yeah, but there's a reason that the police run dash cams too. It's just it's accountability for all. So you want to be able to make sure that that if somebody says something, you can be backed up with fact. And so if it doesn't become he said, she said. You had a situation with your Tesla where somebody tried to pawn it off on you, but you had video that saved you.
Yes, I had I had an aftermarket dash cam that proved exactly what happened, and couldn't be disputed.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to dispute it at first, but then they quickly they very quickly gave up that dispute when I had the proof.
Yeah. As far as Teslas coming, yeah, you will see cases where somebody runs into a Tesla, but that's just because people follow too closely and they're too aggressive. But they had that same problem today with a safe driver who sees the light, decides I'm going to stop, and then they do. With proper following distance, that gives them time to deal with it and not run them through. And I think we'll see this become less of a problem because people are going to realize that Tesla's going to do the right thing, and they can't bully it because it's not a human. It doesn't care. Because that's really what's happening is they're trying to like when I was in my Prius, man, I would always have a big truck grill behind my window. I didn't care. Actually, I did it first, and then I found myself in Florida doing 107. The car could only do 108, and the guy is still chasing me. I'm like, you know what? I just stepped on the brakes. I didn't slam on him. I didn't brake check him, but I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. He went around and he flipped the bird, and that was the last time I ever let anybody intimidate or egg me on to go what I didn't want to do on the road.
Yeah, don't let anybody bully you.
Well, I mean, I was thinking I'm in Florida, and some cop is going to come out from behind a sign, and it's going to be me that gets in trouble, not the guy with the lifted truck. Right. Even though I'm in the Prius, getting chased. Yeah, exactly, Anders. But
yeah, I got a thunderstorm going on.
Where was the other one? Dan was saying about Elon again. I think that the problem with people confusing Elon and having this immediate hatred for him, like one of my in-laws, you say Elon, and one of my in-laws, she just gets wound up over it, and I think it's these folks are buying into the smear campaign, and so with that smear campaign, it's very effective, and we need to make sure that we're properly understanding our sources and doing critical thinking. And not falling for, I mean, we see it a lot with the news. Something happened the other day with these cars, and nobody verified it, and it just spread around. And then by the time the correction came out, it was one of the crashes. They're like, oh, the car has autopilot. Well, do you know he paid for it? Do you know if it was on? The cop even said it probably wasn't on, and we didn't hear till 2 weeks that yeah, it wasn't on. The cop says yeah, it definitely wasn't on, and nobody's done a correction on their story yet. So I don't want to say nobody, but the news hasn't spread around that there was a correction, and I bet you it was probably
because
if there was
the bad news travels faster than the corrections or the good news. So you can spread a lie will spread around the world 5 times
before the truth gets out of bed.
The truth can get out of bed, right? So it's just the way it is.
It is.
Just like that story with the teenage girls that were driving their mom's Tesla. They Tesla, like 300 miles away or whatever. And then they were driving the wrong way on a one-way or whatever. The cop pulls them over, and then they back into the cop. And
they jump in the back
little
seat.
Girl jumps in the back seat. And, the car was driving itself. It did it.
Autopilot did that.
We weren't driving. Like, no.
Autopilot doesn't go from drive to reverse. And Smart Summon, doesn't do it that way. Smart Summon does go in reverse, but it's not going to hit a car. It'll hit any number of things, but it's not going to just smack into a car that all the cameras and all the sensors can see. Yes, Robert Williams, another part of the smear campaign is the stock prices. So they've got so many different levels of hatred for the company, hatred for the man, and but just because...
Well, you got to think about it. I mean, he's
disrupting so many pies.
He's disrupting multiple different... There's so many different layers to this. I mean, you got the oil companies and stuff, and gas companies. It's a complete disruption there. It's a disruption to the dealership model and how he's directly selling the cars from manufacturer to customer. It's completely disrupting that industry there. You got even the automotive repair industry with the fact that electric cars actually need so much less maintenance than regular gas vehicles. There's disruption there. There's just multiple different levels that he's disrupting so many things that there's going to be there's a ton of people that hate him because of that.
Yeah. We've got we got a lot to look forward to, and I'm excited about that. We like we said, Elon's got his fingers in a lot of pies, so you gotta be critical about your news sources. Find out if the person actually did any research, because we found in some news cases recently that there was no sourcing, or the one source was a hearsay, and you can't just hate somebody because the news says that they like money. I think we all like money on some level. I mean, some of us are more about it than others, but you gotta be able to not be a cultist, and that's what it comes down to. So we've got a bunch of cool stuff looking forward to. Starship serial number 15 is probably going to go off this week, and we've probably got another couple of Starlink satellites to go up this month, and there was just one at the end of last week, and we're waiting on those Starlink dishes to start shipping to more people.
What do you need me to do? Well, they're definitely rolling that out at a high pace.
Yes. So, what's this? I hope that the shares. Yes, I would love to see the share split again. Get in a discount. Yes. We're gonna have to skip our questions today. We got a bunch of pre-sent questions, but what we want to start doing is, like I said at the beginning of this, I don't mind doing a nice long stream with you guys, but we want to keep from doing the marathons. That way, as we come back each week, we don't have maybe one week is a slow news week, and we can save some of that for the next week. But I don't want to take that much time out of everybody's day. Not everybody has 5 hours to deal with this. And anybody coming back to review it would make it a very uncomfortable situation to deal with. I mean, I guess if I did a podcast, somebody could do a couple of days of listening to it. But I'd rather finish in one commute there and back rather than 4 different commutes or 8 different commutes. So... I want to thank Omar for his time. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to remind you that if you want to, you can join down below. That'll help the channel out. We can join. We can use that money to buy more stuff for the channel, pay for services, and if you want a podcast of these, let me know and I'll set up a podcast. Yeah, just last week was super long. I'm being selfish.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm
being selfish. Or you said we were all being selfish about the stock. Yeah, either way. So let me know if you want to turn this into a podcast so you can listen to some of them later. And I want to go ahead and do our end videos, and we'll catch you all next week.
Thanks for watching, everybody.